Hello everyone, very excited today with none other than Tisca Chopra, a woman that I have admired a lot, a mother, an actor, and now an author as well. And I'm so happy that she's actually written this book because these are the kind of conversations that we want to have, the ones that we avoid, the ones we don't know when to have, the ones we don't know who to have, the ones we actually sometimes think that maybe if an external person did it, perhaps it would be better. The ones that we think, maybe the dad should not have, or the male member of the family should not have with their kids. So there's so much of perhaps, but, if, and hows, right? That I think we all try to answer when we try to have this conversation with Tisca as we talk about her new book, which is What's Up With Me? Puberty, Periods, Pimples, People, Problems, and more. Okay,
Hey,
finally. I was
there you
stressed.
are, Mansi.
I'm stressed. How gorgeous are you looking?
Thank you. And look at you. I'm sitting outside. I'm in this wonderful place. There are birds flying overhead. And I'm sitting outside like this wonderful place. So I'm really chilling in Jaipur.
You know how lucky you are, right, to be saying this. Here we are cooped up at home. So don't touch it, don't jinx it. First up, let me ask you this straight away. Was this a lockdown baby?
Was this a lockdown baby? Yes, it was. The book was a total lockdown baby. Yes, indeed, it was. Slightly different from the ones that Kareena and Anushka have had. They've had babies. I've had a book. I've laid a book.
I'm going to read a few parts of it, which I absolutely loved. But for the starters, I'm going to read the note that she's written to her daughter, Tara, where she writes, "For Tara, the light of my life, I hope this book helps you and many other girls grow into strong young women." I mean, it's a beautiful note, but I have to probe on strong young women, right? What gave birth to this book? Why strong young women? Why all of those words?
So I think amongst other things, menstruation is another thing that is used to sort of put women down very subtly. Don't enter this space, don't go there, the achar will rot, it's those days. And I think all of this conversation starts, Mansi, around the time till a certain age. Boys and girls are the same. They run around and they're just kids.
Yeah.
And then suddenly when a girl starts getting her period, she starts becoming separated from the boys. And it is that age that, so rather than take out candlelight marches and vigils and all of that, when it's too late, they're just protesting against something that's already happened. My wish was to catch them young and put steel into their spine at this age and tell them that they are the reason that the human race can procreate, and their period is the reason. It's the magic of the human body, the female body, actually the male body as well, but in this case we're talking about the female body, and how wonderful it is. And to be unapologetic, unashamed, unembarrassed, and have this conversation in a very magnificently open and wide way. That was my wish, so that young girls no longer feel bashful or sort of squirm at the idea of talking about their period. In fact, I thought that perhaps we might reach a point where we give little girls period pride badges and say, you have your period and hey, you're normal, and that's how biology intended you to be. I mean, nature intended for you to be. And if you don't get your period, that's actually not normal, and that's a problem. So that's what I wanted to do.
I feel like as every mom to an 8 or 9-year-old, you are thinking, when should I have this conversation? Who should have this conversation? Should I have it with the family? Should my husband have this conversation? What am I supposed to do after? How do you normalize it, right? Which is such a normal thing, but we struggle, right? And also given the Indian joint family ecosystem, where you as and this is, we are top 1 percentile of the urban Indian woman, but in so many households, we are still not being able to voice our opinions when we're living in larger families or joint families, and we may be progressive, but there exists an ecosystem around. So how do you think that this book will change that mindset?
It is my wish, because it's written in a very child-friendly manner, but it's not childish, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
I hope that fathers, and I've Durjoy Datta introduced the book.
Yeah.
And I have a whole lot of cool fathers who are getting into the mix. So in my house, for example, we call a vagina, we call breast, we call a penis, and I'm very clear that I want dads and moms to have this conversation with their kids together. So yeah, that is my wish. And I also want that young girls should be equally happy to discuss this with their dads and say, Dad, you're off to the market, just get me my pads or get me something else that I need. And fathers should be able to say, okay, listen, I'm going to drop you here, don't cycle today because I think it's your first day, etc., whatever needs to be done. But just talk about it like, like you might have any other thing, like any other physical thing. For example, if you got to go to the loo, you got to go to the loo. And everything else. So it's just normal biology taking place. So I want this book actually to become the sort of center of conversation around families. People could just pick up one chapter. For example, there's this chapter which I've just opened up, and it says, "Will I be pretty?" And this question of what is pretty and what is not pretty, and body shaming. So we've tried to include a whole lot of other things. So we can start with something else and then probably come into menstruation and the period and all of that. So I think that's really the wish.
Right. I have to ask, and I must compliment you while you were showing the chapters, guys. The illustrations, I love them. Like they were I think it's something that that I as a mom love, but I know my daughter will also completely kind of relate to it, because she's in that space of reading and picture books and things like that. And I feel like the illustrations were extremely powerful. Like, what made you come up with these sort of illustrations? Like, what was
my editor Vidhi Bhargava, a lot of the credit for including the book, it was her idea that I do the book. She wanted me to write a letter to my daughter talking to her about growing up. But I sort of felt that as I wrote more and we expanded on the idea, it became bigger. So it didn't stay in the form of just like a letter, because we included a whole lot of other topics in the book. The illustrations were her idea, and we have Akanksha Agnihotri, who's on Instagram, and she's fabulous with her doodles.
Yes.
My daughter, when she first picked up the book, I thought she was on her iPad because she was gone for like 40 or 45 minutes. And then I saw her sitting in the corner of the drawing room reading the book. And I asked her, how do you like it? And she said, it's nice. And I was like, classic understatement. Okay, maybe because I never saw her go away for like 45 minutes for anything except maybe, watching her iPad. And then she said, Mama, we talk about boys. And I said, yes, we do know you talk about boys. So yeah, she loved the book. It's a book for her, and I hope for all her friends and all the other girls out there who can, I know mothers and fathers out there.
Right, absolutely. In fact, my daughter read it, and she loved it. I mean, there were so many parts that I really want her to read, and like I said, it's the conversation that I have an 8 and a 12-year-old.
Oh, nice.
So just the right sort of age. So actually, the 12-year-old read it all by herself, and of course, she knows everything, and she, for her it was like, okay, now this is normal, right? So it was a great read for her. I'll read it to my 8-year-old as well. I must ask you this: that in a age of digital and social media where everything's on demand, did you ever consider that is this for a book, or is this for a social media campaign? Did that thought ever cross your head? Or you feel like it can be both?
When you say a social media campaign, what do you mean?
As in, like, could you have, could you have done this all through social, or it warranted a book, or do you see yourself now extending it to social media as well? Because some of the illustrations are really, really nice. So I feel like it just lends itself so beautifully onto the Instagrid as well. I mean, I feel like it can be the whole movement altogether, right? So that's why I asked that question.
I hope it becomes a movement. I didn't write it with that intention. The intention was very clearly to so there were two very clear intentions. One intention was to sort of open up a conversation between fathers and daughters, to open up a conversation between girlfriends, because there's a lot of misinformation out there. So to give them scientific basis, and also that empowers you, because power is knowledge, and we know that. So when you have knowledge and you know what exactly what's going on with your body, and why you're feeling so temperamental, or why your parents seem like the enemy, or whatever else happens at that time, or what's this hair sprouting all over your body, or other than just the period, also your first bra buying experience, and also eco-friendly menstrual hygiene products, and all of that, and bring everyone up to speed with a lot of research. The second thing was that fathers and daughters, it's a very special bond, but in India somehow, when a girl becomes a certain age, then they don't do frontal hugs, it's the side hug, it's you go to a chemist and they wrap your sanitary napkins in a newspaper, and it all becomes like so distorted, and it's so uncomfortable for young girls, because suddenly they wonder, like, what did I do wrong, what happened there. And I didn't want that. I wanted it to be like such a healthy process. There were cultures back in the day that would celebrate the beginning of menstruation for girls, and they would say, okay, now they would have feasts and festivities around that. But now it's become a sort of like a nudge, wink, wink, and that starts at this age and then goes on to saying, oh, it's when it gets into office politics, and it becomes like, she has a period, man, who knows what's going on with her. She's PMSing, and I'll just stay away from her. It's those days and all of that. So I was like, don't start that. It's the reason you're here is because someone got their period, right? And if someone doesn't have their period, they should go and get themselves checked, because it's a short sign of PCOD or some other abnormality. So I just wanted to bring it center and front and say, okay, this is a problem, and you can't have young girls being bashful about this. It's just, I have my period, okay, 3-4 days, get over it, move on. There's nothing wrong with me. I might not be able to play soccer with you today, but I'll beat you at a game of chess any moment you want.
I also want to ask you that any part where you struggled in the book, where you said, like, I don't know how to write this, or I don't know how to explain this, or this one's hard. Did you ever feel like any part of it was tough?
No, not really. I didn't think there was anything hard, but I think what we were conscious of in that sense was trying to keep the narrative very modern, in the sense of inclusivity. So we didn't talk about girls just liking boys. Girls could like other girls, crushing on girls. We tried to keep it, free, in a bit to kind of liberate girls. We don't want to tie boys down and make them look like the villain either, because they aren't. So there's a chapter where we talk about the coming of age of a young boy, which is puberty for a boy, and we've described the male body. So you demystify that, and it just becomes biology. So it's simple, it's easy to understand, and then whatever else happens to your emotions and how you're feeling, and all of that is that much easier, one, when you know the science behind what's happening to you and to them. And the second thing is that when you know that it's happening to everyone, every single girl is going through it, then it just becomes so easy to deal with it. It's like, I'm not the only one who's suddenly dying of bleeding from down there. So
right.
Yeah.
Tell me also, when you are talking about something like that, you've never in the book come across as preachy or pedantic. And certain age, it's very easy for our children to think that, like my daughter says, can you stop giving me gyan? So, like, how do you talk to them without sounding like that gyan that she talks about? I mean, how did you achieve that with the book?
Well, I'm really grateful that you think that, because I did feel at certain points that they'd be like, you know what, we know all this stuff, it's on the net, and don't tell me about it. So I
I
thought
love that accent.
yeah, they get into that, like what, like what's going on, and I'm like, so I tried not to be. I tried to be a friendly, warm person who's done research. I don't necessarily know exactly what you're going through, but I've been through it as a preteen myself. I have a young daughter, so I understand some bit of your language, and because often children will say that, but you're adults and you don't understand. And I was like, you might be wrong there. Try and explain. I'll try and understand. So I try to come from a place of empathy, because it's a young, evolving life, and it can be a very terribly confusing time. So say that, hey, it's okay, don't worry about it, and but don't brush it under the carpet, because kids today are extremely smart, and if you try and do that, they'll be like, in 1 second they'll weed you out. So so their bullshit meter is really high. So I wanted to make sure that I didn't bullshit them, and I also tried to speak in a tone of voice which was kind of easy, but not dumbing it down, because their grasp is strong.
Yeah. And while you were, enacting that out, I have to ask you, you've learned a lot of cool kid and teen lingo right here, right? So you have to drop some words that you've learned along the way. And if you can act it out, that'll be super.
Oh my god.
Like, I like
So the one is, oh my god. Oh my god. Everything is like what? Like what? And extreme. Mama, that's extreme. I'm like, I asked you to do your homework. How is that extreme? Please tell me, what is the extremity of that? That's not extreme, that's basic. So
Yeah.
they have some of those words, and then what else do they say? A bunch of things actually, but it's because they're watching so much of cartoon stuff and all these Disney movies where all these girls are sort of constantly saying, "Oh my god, oh my god." I'm like, you're living in Andheri. Don't say, "Oh my god," you're not in California. So it's pretty.
Yeah. I mean, it's.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
we pull our each other's leg on that. So if I have something which is a very sort of us word, our generation word, and then I go to her and I say, "Oh my god, what are you doing? What you doing? What is that?" And there's that whole thing. What is that? I can't do that. What is that? And I go to her and say, "What is that?" When I see her homework and sometimes the handwriting snappy, I'm like, "What is that?" So
That's a good way. Perhaps I need to copy that. I need to get so good at my acting skills. I'm going to try that. Guys, this is that I know I'm doing this out of the live. I'm going to keep this on
give it to them in their own language.
Yeah. I'm going to try that. But tell me, how do you, and Tisca, your work keeps you away from family for a while when you're shooting and doing this. How do you develop this chemistry and still be a hands-on mom, but looking at a macro picture? How do you manage that? Because everybody, especially moms, we feel like अगर मैं physically micromanage नहीं कर रही हूँ तो कुछ गलत है. So how do you strike that balance?
My dad actually put me out of my misery. He told me once that, what if your daughter forgets her tiffin at home? What would you do? That I'll go drop the tiffin to school or send the driver. I'll make sure that she gets her tiffin. He said, well, that's good parenting. I said, and you mean what? So he said, no. So effective parenting is not giving her the tiffin. Because if she's forgotten it, then she will manage on that one day, and nobody died from not having lunch on one day. So she will tell her teachers, or she will find a way, she will share, and it will teach her how to cope, which is a far better skill than actually having the tiffin. and he's been in education for the past 55 years. He's been in
Wow.
education, and he starts up schools, and my mother and him work in tandem, and she's been a headmistress. So I said, you know what, you've taught me something very big today. So I have left my daughter with my husband, and I get panic calls. Like my daughter called me just now. She was on this other phone and she was watching my live with you. And she wrote on her paper, "Can I watch iPad?" So while I was talking to you, I was doing this. Nietzsche say I was doing this to her, that yes, you can. So multitasking queen, I have become. Like I can focus on I can tell her from off screen. I can tell her, go eat your food, do your homework. We have signs for everything. We use technology. We're doing all sorts of things. So she attended the live. She's watching me talking to you. And when I spoke about
all
her,
all our kids are opportunists, right? So between your Zoom calls, meetings, client calls, live, please give me the password, put the fingerprint, show your face. That's all they do. All the approvals will come when you're in the most important meeting. Like literally, I sometimes tell my kids, like when we had now, of course we have Face ID, but with the thumbprint phone, I was like, I think तुम लोग मेरा ना अंगूठा काट के लेके जाओगे, because it's literally like the most important meeting.
they're devils like that. Devils. So she's asking
Devils,
me,
exactly.
she wrote it on a
She
piece
was
of
watching.
paper.
She was watching this live. Busy है, हाँ बोल देगी. That was I think their
और बोल दिया
intention.
और बोल दिया. So now, but I'm also mummy. I'm also smart. As soon as the live finishes, I'll be on her case. I'm like, okay, no more iPad. You're done. Get out.
Amazing. Tell me also, Tisca, with the abundance of so much, like you mentioned that, you'll be at this stage of, and you've written about frenemies and enemies and friends and, best friends, they reach these multiple stages, right? With the abundance of so much that our kids have today, how do you teach them or instill the right sort of values? Like, how do you keep them grounded?
The tough one. That is a tough one. I believe in frugality, particularly for kids. So I don't tog her out in designer wear. The max she gets is Zara H&M. She doesn't get anything much more designer than that. On the odd occasion, she might get like one thing if she really knows about it, which she doesn't, and we've not gone that route. I salt away her birthday gifts. That's what I do as a mom. I put them away. I'm like, you're allowed to open one thing every month till your next birthday. And I think she understands. And we've also started doing something a little different. So in the lockdown, we would pack these cartons with biscuits and dry rations and distribute them. And she'd be in the car and she'd be watching that, and she would see migrant workers and their families and traveling, and she would see that in the news. And I'd make it a point to Sanju, and my husband, he's also like a really woke dad, a woke human being, actually extremely compassionate.
Woke's a new word we've learned.
Yes, woke is a new word. So he's one of the most compassionate human beings I've ever met, and it's easy to see how his heart bleeds for those lesser fortunate, and I think she sees that, and I think it communicates. So at a certain point, I'll be like, if you're done with this toy, should we move it on, give it life, give the toy a chance to belong to someone else and to bring happiness to someone else? And she's like, yeah, mama, you can do that. Then she makes a little sack of her things and gives them away. And also consciously we've reduced the purchasing. Now I don't know what's going on when I'm not there, because I think she's like wrapping her dad around her little finger, and I've seen 7-8 cans of slime, which I can't stand. What on earth is slime? How is that fun? Gross. But it's a thing. Slime.
It's effective. I like it. I'm not gonna say I like it.
You like slime?
I mean, I think it's fun. I like it. I mean, we made unicorn slime. We've made glow-in-the-dark slime, and in Kidsstoppress we really have fun. One kit, 16 slimes, which is epic, by the way. And I must say I quite enjoy it. It's a big de-stressor for me. And to get the proportions right is a lot of fun as well. So I will make sure I send her a slime kit. Just to piss you off.
Okay. Wrong
Okay,
thing to
Tara,
say.
that's coming your way. You're going to be excited. That's a really cool one. Super formula. You're going to love it. Okay, Tisca, before we move on to a fun rapid fire, I have to ask you this question. Like, how did you go about writing the book? How do you get the discipline to write a book?
I don't know how to answer that. I get up and I have a pretty set routine when it comes to, or had when the lockdown was happening. So I knew that if one lets time slide, then it'll just pass like sand through one's fingers. So I made it a point to make sure I did my meditation in the morning, my yoga, all of that, and then um, I converted one room to a work from home space, and I have a desk which also doubles up as my makeup desk, so makeup table. So I write there, and I sit and write, and I just said, okay, this is the date. So 15th August was my last date, and I promised myself I'm going to give it to her on the 14th of August, and I did. I gave my editor Vidhi the book on the 14th of August, and I hope Vidhi is listening to this conversation and will vouch for this, that I gave it to her. So yeah, that was important to me. I think setting deadlines and but not compromising. And then we went back and forth on a couple of the edits and placement and some other stuff, and then we got around to bringing it out now. Yeah, so I think deadlines is one way to do it, and I'm pretty target oriented. So I give myself targets. I think this has to be done by this time. It has to be done. That's it. Whatever you do, and then I enjoy the challenge of pushing myself against that deadline. I really like it. I think it really gives me a rush.
Right. But it's to have that discipline, give yourself a deadline, and then that works, right?
Works for me.
Okay. Now, quick one-word answers. Describe Tisca as a mom in a word.
I got you.
Okay. What's tougher, motherhood or acting?
Both together.
That was a really nice answer. That was a really nice answer. One thing that you've learned from being a mom, one skill.
Manipulation.
Okay. One thing my daughter has taught me.
How to be a mom.
One thing I've taught my daughter.
I think to be courageous.
One quality that I want to imbibe from her.
Her energy.
Most important conversation as a mother that you should have with your child.
I think to say that no secrets.
Are you going to be a Are you going to be a friend or a mother to your child?
A mother.
One thing you can do better at parenting than your husband.
I think I should give you a shorter answer of what. Okay.
No, come on, let's have that. Come on.
One thing I'm better.
Tisca, itna lamba list hai that you're actually picking which one should I say?
I'm better at calming her down and putting her to bed.
I said, why that sheepish smile? I want to know.
Well, he'll never. He's not on social media, so he's not going to watch this live. So there's no point in getting my snarky rocks off at this point by dissing him. So there's no benefit to that. I was just trying to think if there's a subtle way that I can introduce a little put down for him, but it's no use because he's not going to be watching this.
Amazing. Raising a strong woman to means
someone who doesn't fear failure and doesn't seek too much approbation outside.
Right. One quality I want to imbibe from my parents.
Discipline from my dad and childlike enthusiasm from my mother.
Message to your younger self who could perhaps be reading this book.
Don't sweat it too much. It's all going to be okay.
So thank you so much for being with us today, and good luck with you with the book and of course with all the new stuff that you're working on.
Thank you so much. It was so wonderful chatting with you, and such great parenting advice that you guys give. I follow you guys all the time, and I glean little gems from here and there, and I try and apply it. I think parenting is something that is an evolving I don't even know whether it's a science or an art or whatever it is. It's an evolving process.
It's complicated.
So it's very complicated. Yeah, I think like be more forgiving and kind and loving to yourself as well, because you need some time to yourself as well.
Right. Tisca, thank you so much for those incredible words and good luck with the book and hope to catch you soon.
Thank you so much.